This is COMMpact, your weekly dose of positivity amidst negativity, giving you a weekly informative and concise talk about important issues that impact our lives, like health, climate, technology, and breakthroughs. We will break down the complicated and abstract to practical and helpful sound bites. This is communication briefs that create an impact. Here's our host for this episode, Nima Sanchez.
Hello, everyone. This is COMMpact, your weekly dose of positivity amidst negativity. If you tuned in last week, we have gotten practical and helpful tips from our psychology expert, Dr. Anna Gayoles, on taking care of our mental health during this pandemic. This week, we are privileged to have her again. And this time, she will help us bust mental health myths so we can keep ourselves in check with what worries us during the COVID-19 crisis. Doc Liza, good afternoon and welcome back to COMMpact.
Hello again, and good afternoon. Thank you for having me for another week. And so this is a continuation of what we had last week. It was really talking about the tips on how to deal with the COVID-19. And just as a recap, so we have the 5 A's of stress management. So those are what we had last week. And it was, what are these 5 A's of stress management? The first is what? Just a recap, a short recap. It is to avoid unnecessary stress. The second, alter the situation. And then the third is adapt to the stressor. And remember this, adapting to the stressor. And then the fourth, we have accept the things you cannot change. And the last is adopting a healthy lifestyle. And so this afternoon, I was invited by the show to talk about, but to do some myth busting. So I give you back the floor to Miss Nima.
Yes, Dr. Gayoles. The fourth and the fifth one, I think I have to bear that in mind. Anyway, so we have some myth busting to do. So is it true that I'll go directly to the question, okay? Is it true that only a few struggle mentally during this pandemic? Only a few.
Okay,
so I think I am one of them.
So only a few. Really, it's like asking, how do we quantify only a few? So, but because this is a pandemic, so when we're looking at the pandemic, it's really global. And so when we say the myth here is only a few struggle mentally during the pandemic. One thing that we have to remember is all of us has mental health. We just have to find out in what part of the spectrum are we? Are we in that spectrum wherein we are healthy, or are we in that spectrum where we are ill? And so looking at it, we actually, all of us have mental health, and a lot. So it's really just really busting it, not only a few, but most of those who are adapting to this, experiencing this stressor, the COVID-19 pandemic, has had their mental health compromised in one way or the other. So that is now busting it. The reality is we all are actually trying to cope with the COVID-19 pandemic, but we may not just be mentally ill, and we may just be struggling or languishing during this pandemic.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for that. On my case, I took care of my mental health by baking, but I did not take care of my health. my physical health. Anyway, so let's go to the number 2 myth. Is it true that resilience means no bad days?
Okay, so let's now bust myth number 2. And the myth number 2 is resilience means no bad days. First thing, what does resilience mean? So let's go back to the definition of resilience. And when we talk about resilience, it is a process. It's a process of what? Wherein we are effectively negotiating, adapting to, or managing significant sources of stress or trauma. So the fact that we become resilient is because we have experienced bad days. We have experienced stresses. We have experienced trauma. And so when we look at resilience, it is really now allowing that person who is having bad days to bounce back from this adversity. So busting myth number 2, resilience is actually bouncing back from adversity, which these are the adversities that make our day bad.
Okay, I'll think about that. Okay. So lastly, Dr. Gayoles, resilience can't be learned. Is that true? What is your take on this?
Okay, now let's go to busting myth number 3. Myth number 3 says resilience can't be learned. And one thing that comes into my mind is this equation: IQ plus EQ plus AQ
Recording in progress.
equals this. Okay, so these are to repeat it again, IQ plus EQ plus AQ equals success. What does it mean? It means your intelligence quotient plus your emotional quotient plus your adaptability quotient equals success. So why did I bring this up? Because that is what resilience is all about. It's trying to lift yourself from a bad situation, from a bad day, from adversity. So the key really here is when we talk about that equation, the key is resilience. So what is the key now to resilience? The key to resilience is this. It is the ability to know one's thoughts and then your beliefs, and to harness that power of flexibility in thinking. So with that said, what does that say about resilience? Resilience can be measured, can be taught, and it can be improved. And so going back to that equation, IQ plus EQ plus AQ. IQ is only 20%, whereas both the others are 80%. So that indicates that yes, we can improve. And there is no such thing as an elevator to success. We always have to, take the long way and take the stairs. And that is the stairs towards our success, because we can improve on our resilience. We can improve on our EQ and our AQ. Busting myth number 3.
Busted. Okay. Thank you for that, Dr. Gayoles. Now, this is the big question of everybody, and even myself. This is my question too. Will we ever go back to the old normal after this pandemic? Will there ever be a time that we won't need the face masks?
Okay, so is there, I always like, I like to when people tell me about the new normal. Really, what is the new normal? The new normal, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, has included now changes in behavior. And so these changes in behavior may very well be uh, permanent. So that's because of that change. What does it say about going back to the old normal after the pandemic? So we may not even go back to the old normal because of the changes that the COVID-19 pandemic has created. So really what I want to say is, they say the COVID-19 pandemic will be gone after the second year. We are almost in our second year, and there has been a lot of changes in behavior. Notice we tried to go back to the old normal by forgetting about social distancing. During Christmas, where was social distancing? It was out the door.
Yes.
And so this is where we say, when we come out of the pandemic, it will be now the new normal after the pandemic, and not going back to the old normal. With that, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Gayoles. Thank you for joining us for 2 episodes. The COVID-19 pandemic is a period of chronic stress punctuated by episodes of acute stress. Seeking help is okay. Now more than ever, we need to feel connected, though physically distanced. Once again, thank you very much, Dr. Gayoles, for helping us navigate the new normal by discussing with us the myths and giving us tips on how to take better care of our mental health. That ends our COMMpact talk on COVID and our mental health. Once again, this has been another episode of COMMpact, your weekly dose of positivity amidst negativity. This has been Nima Sanchez, reminding you that of all the affairs, communication is the most wonderful. Stay tuned for next week.